Hey there, welcome back to Coding at Home. Hey there, welcome back to Coding at Home with the Code Hub. I'm super excited about our session today because we're going to be following along with some of the new playgrounds they just shipped at WWDC last night. Last night was the first session where they talked about Swans Quest Chapter 1, and they included in the session materials the link to the playground that you could play around with. I love this playground. I think it's an amazing use of storytelling and of making you aware of accessibility issues. We are going to work a bit with Voiceover. I highly recommend going and checking out this session. Let's get to the iPad and I'll show you where to go to check that stuff out. All right, so I have my iPad up here. I'm in Swift Playgrounds. You can see I already have Swans Quest downloaded. I'm going to show you where to download that from right now. So if we go out and into the developer app, which hopefully you've downloaded at this stage, we're going to open that up. So I have it in my favorites, but if you don't have it in your favorites, you can go off to collections and tap on WWDC 20. And in this list here, we're going to look for our familiar Swift. We're going to tap on this Take Swift Playgrounds to the next level. Now there are a few other items in here like building Swift UI views in Swift Playgrounds and creating Swift Playgrounds content for iPad and Mac, it's also great content that's coming out later in the week. But what we really want is this Explore Swans Quest. So this tells you a little bit about the challenge. And the one that we're most keen to go take a look at today is Swans Quest Chapter 1, Voices in the Dark. So I'm going to tap on the session here. I'll include links to the video, to this session in the video, as well as some of the other links that we'll be talking about in a little bit. All right, so this is the video is here. We can download it. It supports copy code. We can tap on the code button here. This is amazing, this stuff. Now, we don't need any of this code here. The code that we're going to be most interested in is activating Torch 1 and Torch 2. But when we read the overview, we have some resources at the bottom. Now you can go off to the new forums over at developer.apple.com and ask questions about this playground, or you can search for questions that other people have had. But the thing that we want to do is we actually want to go download this particular playground book. Now if you tap on this link, it'll take you off to developer.apple.com and it's going to give you a zip file. Now, one way you could do this is you could download it, open it in files, go back to your Mac and open the zip file, and then airdrop it to your iPad. I found that a little bit awkward. So what I did just to try to help us out for this session is I went and created a playground feed that we can subscribe to. So if I hit done there, I'm going to skip this step. I'm going to go back. This video, by the way, is very worthwhile watching. It's 15 minutes long. It's got some of the amazing developers that work on Swift Playgrounds in it. So I'm going to go off to Safari here. And I have gone to already the codehub.ie/playgrounds. So you want to navigate to that website. You might recall we've been there before when we added the Code Hub's playground feed to our iPad. And this is the button that we use to subscribe to the playgrounds from the Code Hub. There's a new button here, just as a temporary measure until Apple gets their feed set up, where you can subscribe to a special WWDC feed. So if I tap on this button, it's going to launch Swift Playgrounds, and it's going to ask if I want to subscribe to the Code Hub Swift Playgrounds from WWDC feed. So I'll hit subscribe. I'm already subscribed to it, and if I scroll way down in the list of more playgrounds, I'll see it here, the Code Hub Swift Playgrounds from WWDC. And when I tap on this, I didn't bother putting any fancy graphics here because these aren't mine. I just wanted you to be able to get this playground very easily. So if you tap on the Get button, you'll get that same playground that Apple were offering as a zip file at the other link. So when I tap on that, once it downloads, it shows the correct title. While it's downloading, it might show the title that I threw up for it, which was WWDC Swans Quest. But now that it's downloaded, we can go on and open it up. It comes from a third party. We're sure we want to open it. Okay, so before we hit run my code, this playground is all centered around using accessibility features of the iPad to finish your coding off. I highly recommend watching the video. Jordan does a great job presenting just why it is you want to turn on accessibility features, and in particular voiceover. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hit the home button, and we're going to go find our settings app. So we're going to open that up. And over here on the left side, we want to scroll down to accessibility. So we're going to turn on accessibility. We'll tap on accessibility. We'll get there in a second. At the very bottom of the pane here, the accessibility settings, there's an accessibility shortcut. Now, right now mine says voiceover, but if I tap on this, there's a whole list of things to choose from. Assistive touch, full keyboard access. I want to tap on voiceover so that there's a blue check mark next to it. So now when I triple click the home button, it'll toggle that feature on and off. So let's try it now. All right, we just turned voiceover on. I need to turn up my volume so we can hear it. So these boxes here are letting me know that that's the highlighted control, and it's actually reading it out loud. You can't hear it right this second, but we'll be able to hear it inside the playground. So now that I have that accessibility shortcut turned on, I'll be able to turn on and off voiceover, which we're going to need inside the Swift Playground. The other way, and I'm actually going to turn it off now. The other way you can use voiceover is just by turning it on here. So if I go up to the top of the accessibility settings, I can tap on voiceover and just toggle this switch. And that will turn on voiceover for me. All right, so I'm going to turn that off again. If I double tap on the voiceover switch, that doesn't just select it, that actually invokes the control, so it'll turn the switch from on to off. The other way you can get to voiceover is you can actually press and hold the home button, bring up Siri, and say, please turn on voiceover.
Okay, I turned on voiceover.
Home button to the right. Voiceover on. Voiceover off.
There. So we can also use that as well. So if you don't want to enable the accessibility shortcut and you don't want to turn on voiceover using the switch, you can also use Siri to help turn it on. So now that we've set that up and we can easily turn on voiceover, we're going to go back to Swift Playgrounds and we're going to start Swans Quest. So let's touch run my code to try it out. All right, it looks like a kind of cool old school video game. We're going to hit play. We've got our turtle going up to talk to a lizard. And he asks, do you seek knowledge and perhaps a little adventure? All right, great. We're going to go to the entrance of a cave. Let's go check it out. We'll hit next. Here, we can use these controls down here. Okay, cool. So many get lost, never to be found again. Sounds like a pretty good adventure to me. And if we make it through, treasure awaits. All right, so let's see. Let's see if we can get an audience with the swan. We're going to hit the next button here again. Swan is a keeper of great knowledge, or a great knowledge. Just one of them. We'll hit the next arrow. Okay, so here's what we have to do. It's telling us what we have to do for this next page. We're going to have to light the torches inside the cave. So there's a catch, it says. These are no ordinary torches. If we hit the next button, so they only respond to this ancient magic called voiceover. And that's being a bit cruel to the voiceover engineers. It's not that old. Or maybe I'm old. So let's hit next. So they tell you about the simple spell to enable it. We can summon Siri and say, please turn on voiceover. So if you haven't tried that already, I would try it now. Okay, and try it again. You can turn it off. So we're going to need this when we're solving the puzzle on the next page. Here, so actually, because I haven't tried it, it's giving me a little bit of grief. So if I triple click the home button, voiceover is turned on. I can tap on different elements in the screen. It'll speak those elements. Hey Siri, please turn on voiceover.
Voiceover is already on.
All right, well, let's go back to our playground then. We'll go back. All right, so once we've turned on voiceover, it'll let us carry on. So there goes our turtle into the cave, and the adventure continues on the next page. So I'm going to turn off voiceover, and I'm going to tap on the next arrow here. So now, and they give us a little hint of what it's going to look like to be able to navigate this this cave. So let's hit run my code. All right, well, it looks very dark so far. I can't really see what's going on. Let's check out the hint. So if we go down here, there's a hint in the bottom. All right, so it's telling us that we need to set the accessibility label for each of the torches. Otherwise, we're never going to get out of this cave. So the hint is telling us that torch 3 is not lit. Now, we could guess, and we could write code like this. So there looks like there's a property on the cave, and we have access to a cave variable. And the property is called torch 1. And then there's a property on that called accessibility hints. Now this question mark at the end just means there might or might not be accessibility hints. And this is a sort of safety feature of Swift, this question mark. So if there are accessibility hints, we'll be able to set the accessibility label property to helpful hint. All right, well, let's see. And as Jordan mentions in the video, we want to make sure our accessibility labels are interesting and not just a torch. We want to make sure that someone who is visually impaired can really get a sense of the scene that we've coded by giving really detailed and really useful accessibility labels. So let's turn on voiceover here. Hey Siri, turn on voiceover.
Voiceover is already on.
Okay, great, it's already on. So let's try tapping around. I'll try turning up my sound. And you know what? I'm getting my volume is going through. All right. Well, we'll have to keep it on here. It'll just stay on system capture for now. All right. We'll go back to Swift Playground. So what's happening, or should be happening with yours, is we'll go back to Swift Playgrounds. As you tap around the screen, you're going to see different items get highlighted. So what should happen is if you have your volume turned up, it'll actually read out the name of that particular torch. So in this case, this one is torch 3, I believe, if we look at the hint. So let's try it out. We'll do cave from the autocomplete bar, and I'm actually going to turn off voiceover for a sec. So I can just tap. Now, if you still have voiceover turned on, you just need to double tap on each one of these. Cave dot, and we're going to use torch 1. And we can see a bunch of autocompletes here. Or torch 3, sorry. Dot, we're going to use accessibility hints. So there's a whole bunch of accessibility autocompletes here. We are going to pick accessibility hints, so we're going to keep going. This might be a case where we'd want to start typing a little bit. So we'll do accessibility hints. Autocomplete gives us an option to use the question mark dot because it knows that accessibility hints might or might not be set. So now we can just access the accessibility label property, and we're going to assign it something useful. So we'll give it a string, we'll bring up the keyboard, and we'll say, how about this, an ominous in a dark cave. Let's try running our code now. We'll close the hints again. So we can see that we managed to, because we have an accessibility hint set, that's what lights up our torches. So now if we were to go over to the next one, now with VoiceOver, I can see that that's an element, and it would, when I tap on it, it's reading out an ominous torch in a dark cave if I wasn't routing my audio through my Mac. In this case, this is torch 2, because if I look at the hint, it's torch 2. So you could cheat, which wouldn't be great. But it'd be great if you experience VoiceOver. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to triple click. Now that I know it's torch 2, I'm going to triple click the home button. And I'm going to do cave.torch2, and I'm going to start typing that one in. Torch2 dot accessibility hints. We'll use the question mark and the dot, and we'll set the accessibility label. This is a really nice feature of this playground in particular, that many of these visual elements have an accessibility label. And you might recall when we were working with Reality Composer, there were accessibility hints in there as well. Now, probably wrongfully, I skipped some of those. We probably should have given proper accessibility hints so that someone who does have a visual impairment would be able to play with our Reality Composer documents and still experience them to a certain degree. So let's see, let's add another one. We'll call this one a second torch. We'll spell second right. All right, and let's run our code. So now we've got torch 2 enabled. If we run our code, we can see that our turtle has now gotten down here and fallen down some stairs, I think. Let's turn on VoiceOver again. And if we tap around, where's the next one? There's the next one. So we've got a little maze kind of going on here. We've got another one there. Let's look at the hint. So we're looking at torch 6 we want to light. So I've just turned off VoiceOver again by triple clicking the home button. We're going to do cave dot, and the hint said torch 6. And if we were able to hear my VoiceOver, it would have said torch 6 as well. Dot accessibility hints. We'll use the question mark and the dot again, and use the accessibility label property. And let's pick ABC, and we'll say a third torch down on the second level. And the really cool thing is that now when you tap on each one of those ones that we've defined an accessibility hint for, it'll read the text that we've actually written out. So instead of torch 1 and torch 2, which aren't glowing descriptions, we'll get much more interesting descriptions, like a third torch down on the second level, an ominous torch in a dark cave. You can see we've got down to here now. It's a pretty dark cave still. Let's turn on VoiceOver to find where the next one might be. So we can see that VoiceOver goes on when the box appears around some of our text that we can read. And I can just drag my finger around the screen. I don't have to pick it up and tap. I can actually drag my finger around the screen to see accessible elements. So let's see. Our next one is, we got down to here. Let's guess that maybe that's the next one. So we'll take a look at the hint file. It's telling me torch 1 isn't lit. All right, cool. So we'll do cave. Now, the other thing that we could do, that all great programmers do, is I double-clicked on cave. I've turned off VoiceOver. And now I have the option to select it all. If I don't have that and I have a solid blue box around it, I can say select as text. And I can drag this bottom one here. And if I tap on my selected text, I can copy it. And then I can paste it like a real programmer. And so torch 1 was the one we wanted to fill in. So I just went back and deleted the 6 of torch 6. I'll add torch 1. Now I want to change. The problem you run into with copying and pasting is you want to make sure you change the stuff you need to change. Like I need to change my description. So we'll delete that part and we'll give it a good description. All right, so a torch deep in the bowels of the cave, because we're getting really deep at this stage. Since we deleted our quotation mark, we'll add another one back in by tapping L and dragging down. Let's hit run my code. Oh, we're getting there. We're now down here. Let's turn on VoiceOver to find the next torch. So I can see over here, touch run my code to continue. Your request has been highlighted because VoiceOver is on. So my guy is there. Let's see, where's the next one? There's the next one. We'll look at the hint. We're looking for torch 5. All right, so let's triple click the home button. We're gonna hit, whoops, not delete. So I just played to undo that change and then realized, whoops, I undid too far. I hit this button and then this button to redo my change. So I want to get back that closing quote. Let's start typing in cave dot torch. We need torch 5 lit. So I'm going to grab that from my autocomplete bar. Dot accessibility hints. There it is. We're going to use the question mark and the dot. Now, if we use just the dot, we can do that. We've seen that before. And if we say accessibility label, you can see autocomplete saying, no, you really need that question mark there. Let's try it without it. Let's spell it all the way out. Accessibility label. And then we need an equal sign after that. And then we'll have our string. Now we've got an error, so if we tap on that, the error, and this is nice because this one can be fixed for us, it just says value of optional type. So when I said that it may or may not have accessibility hints, that's what I mean. It's optional. So they're saying it must be unwrapped. So that question mark is the thing that's sort of safely unwrapping our accessibility hints. It's like, imagine if you had a gift and you were like, oh man, I really want to use that baseball glove that someone's given me and it's inside that box. I'm pretty sure. The question mark is the thing that unwraps the box and lets you know that, well, if there's nothing in the box, then you can't use it. So don't continue the rest of the code. Whereas when you do find something in the box, you do find the baseball glove, then you can go out and use it. I know we're broadcasting in Ireland. I'm using baseball analogies. Maybe that's not the best. All right. Well, anyway, we'll hit fix, and you see it adds in the question mark for us. I'm going to bring up the keyboard to give a good description to my torch 5. We'll call it a torch. Ooh, torch. Very close to the end. Now, you want to make sure that this is where spelling is really going to matter. Okay, we've got tool. You want to make sure your spelling is good here, because if it's not, you're going to have a horrible experience when this is actually read out loud to you. All right, so cool. We've got our torch 5 lit. Let's run our code and see what happens. Oh man, I think we're nearly there. We're going to triple click. Voiceover is enabled. Let's see if there's one last one here. Okay, we seem to have one last torch at the very end. I'm going to tap on hint and see that torch 4 is not lit. Okay, cool. I'm going to triple click on my home button. We're going to add our last line here, I think. Cave.torch4. I'm going to start typing torch 4. Dot. Again, accessibility hints. We'll use the question mark and the dot. And we'll set our accessibility label. We'll use the equal sign here. We'll pick this value here from the autocomplete bar. All right, and we'll label that one, the last torch you made it. So you see that I didn't give the same label to every single torch. I wanted to make sure that if somebody's listening to this using VoiceOver, they can navigate it just by hearing the description of the different elements on the screen. So let's hit run my code. All right, and that did it. We got through the cave. Here comes our turtle. Through the cave to a shockingly lit hall. And we get to meet the swan of Swan's Quest. So, all right, we're congratulated by the swan for taking on this challenge. We're talented with code. You guys have done code like this before, especially in the Everyone Can Code Puzzles area. These are just different properties, and we're using dot notation to access all the properties. And the new wrinkle that we added today was being able to add accessibility labels and use VoiceOver. All right. All right, so while I choke on my tea. So now we have a chance to go on and do Chapter 2. Now, Chapter 2 is going to come out tonight, Irish time at around 6 p.m. I'm going to try to add it to the feed as soon as that is available, or if there's another way that they provide the playgrounds, we'll keep that. We'll use their method of getting it. But we're going to work on Chapter 2 tomorrow for our session and see how far we can get. Now, that's going to be very sound-based again. So I'm going to try to sort it out so that you can hear my device while we're playing along with it. So if we're ready to move on, and hopefully you guys are ready to come back tomorrow, the goose presents us with this scroll from its ancestors. So if we tap on this button here, we'll see a bunch of numbers. Now you can either write these down or you can take a screenshot. I'm going to take a screenshot just for kicks. And that's not a screenshot, that is closing the iPad. There we go. Oh, jeez. Help if I got the home button and the power button. There we go. Cool. We took a screenshot. I'm going to save that to my photos so that I have it for reference for later. Because I have a feeling this great knowledge that was imparted to us by the swan is going to come up in tomorrow's challenge. So great, if we tap on that again, it'll go away. So we want to study it, and they're the first clues to unlocking new worlds. So apparently this is a gift from nature itself. Pretty good. And the swan will await our return. So off we go. Our little turtle has the scroll. And we get a to be continued. Hopefully you're able to navigate that. If not, take your time. It's not a heck of a lot of code. You've written far more code than this in the past. Play around with it. Try adding them all in sequence. Torch 1, torch 2, torch 3, torch 4, torch 5, torch 6. See if that works. If that's you're able to solve the puzzle that way, that's kind of a cheat. If you are. Otherwise, play around with VoiceOver a little bit more. Have a look around different apps that you're using on your iPad and see how well they support VoiceOver. It's kind of a neat new tool to try to navigate your iPad using. So that's it for us for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to, of course, watch the Swans Quest Chapter 2 tonight. And then we'll be going through that same material. We'll be going through the new playground that they come out with tonight for tomorrow's session. And I hope you're able to get to the end. I hope you're able to get that scroll of knowledge, because I have a feeling we're going to need it for the next few playgrounds. All right, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.